Welcome to Raiders of the Lost Flicks Live. Remember, if it's a bad movie, we want to know about it, and a bad movie it is. Wonder Woman 1984, or WW84. The Achilles heel of this movie is the script, which is a series of contrivances held together haphazardly with the literal magic and MacGuffins, but mostly magic. Wonder Woman somehow takes a backseat to what feels like a playlist of superhero movie tropes from the past 3 decades. Suspension of disbelief be damned. I am your host, Adam Wilcox, joined by the Professor Flair X, who is a United States Air Force veteran and pilot. Professor Flair X, initial thoughts, sir?
Suspension of disbelief. You have to suspend your belief that any of this is real, any of this is even make-believe, because I'd like to know where the runway is next to the Smithsonian. The fully fueled Panavia Tornado, which is, mind you, a British aircraft at a American Air and Space Museum, first and foremost, and then borrowing it to take off down the runway, where he plugs into Zone 6 afterburner, and the range on that aircraft would maybe get him to Florida. Might get him to Florida, Cairo,
maybe Georgia. Yeah.
We're all thinking that maybe magic pixie dust is being poured into the gas tanks from the magic that we're going to be using throughout this movie, and so it's like, okay.
Lots and lots of magic. Okay, it's gonna be magic.
I get throwing spaghetti against a wall and seeing what sticks, but holy shit, what the abuse of the definition of truth in this movie is right next door to an abomination. Because I'm also a trained historian. I was told that, going through college, that truth is subjective, that, each person has their experience, which makes the truth what it is. So that it lines it up for them and says, okay, this is your truth. It's not. I've never seen a movie go arbitrary and say the truth is one thing and one thing only, and we're a feminist movie, so let's tell you what the truth is right now.
If you guys don't already know, this is going to be spoiler filled. I originally wasn't going to do Wonder Woman 1984 review, but I watched it not Christmas Day, but the day after. I watched the day after Christmas, because we had a lot going on Christmas Day, and once I finally watched it, I expected it to be good. I expected to enjoy it. And there were parts where I was just throwing my hands up in the air like, wait, what? I did not expect it to be as good as the first movie, but I didn't expect it to be this crazy. I mean, it's just borderline silly. But before we get into anything else, I want to lay some guidelines, okay? If you guys are going to participate with us in the chat, okay, full explanation. We do not read the comics. Okay, this is a movie judgment. Okay, this is a movie review, not a comic book review. Okay, so if it's in the comics, or if it was something that was referenced in a Super Friends cartoon or a Justice League cartoon, I don't want to hear it. All right. So if you're going to come in and start, arguing with us about something that was set up in episode 67 of the Justice League cartoon on the WB, I don't want to hear any of that. All right. If it's not set up in this movie or the movie before it, or God forbid, the universe to which this movie may or may not belong, it doesn't happen. Okay. And also, this is not an assault on any of the actors or actresses or people involved with the making of the film, and it's not an assault on the character of Wonder Woman. I have no reason not to like Wonder Woman. Both of us, Flair and I, absolutely loved the last movie, And I was at least, I don't know about you, Flair, I was looking forward to this one. I had expectations. Yeah.
I honestly, seriously considered getting HBO Max just to see it. And, but thanks to other means of being able to watch it, I was able to watch it and
Arr.
and got a master's course in how not to make a movie and how to lay the longest turd in history.
Flair, what went wrong with this movie, man? Seriously, where did this go off the rails? I guess we have to do a brief synopsis of.
I think where it went off the rails is where they came in and pitched it. The initial.
It is. This is a terrible script. It's a terrible script. It really is. It's just.
Patty Jenkins walks in and goes, "I made the first movie what it was, so I'm going to take over writing as well." That's where the first thing that kind of it hit the black ice and starts to
didn't exactly steer into the
and then you're steering into the curve, and then you hear that it's a feminist movie against Donald Trump, and the steering wheel goes wonky again, and you're going, okay, I get it, I got it back, and then the cliff happened, and the second beginning started, and you're like.
Also, I don't hate DC. Okay, sorry about the green screen effect there, but I don't hate DC. I want DC to succeed. But what is it with this company making movies? Like, they'll get one hit, and then right after that, they'll have 5 failures. Like, right afterwards. Like even the ones... Usually it's the ones that we think will do very well are the ones that baffle us the most. Maybe it's because we go in with expectations. I had 0 expectations with Todd Phillips' Joker, man, and I love that movie. I did. It was good.
I still need to break down and see it. I mean,
okay. But you saw the first Wonder Woman. I mean, you enjoyed that, right? Yeah. You being a historian and a mild fan of comic books in general, you enjoyed that movie, right?
Oh, I absolutely loved that movie.
So did I. I own it. I have it on Blu-ray. Yeah.
I thought it was gritty where it needed to be. I think it was heart-rending when it needed to be. It was powerful when it needed to be. She was a strong character when she, as the entire package of who Wonder Woman is supposed to be.
That No Man's Land scene, that gave me goosebumps in that first movie. I loved that scene. I'm like, this is a proper superhero moment set in an actual World War I battle scenario. This is awesome.
Absolutely. And I mean, we just, like we said, we suspend our disbelief regularly because we enjoy movies. We both watch horror flicks. We both watch sci-fi.
We watch Andy Sedaris movies and we love them, okay? Point we're trying to get at, audience, is we're not the type of dudes that go into a movie looking to analytically pick apart every single genre movie there is. Like, we go in knowing that there's going to be some things that might seem a little wonky, but after all, it's a comic book movie. Yeah. I'm not going to use that, though, as a straw man defense for this movie, because we've had 20 years of comic book movies that can do it way better than this one.
I am not looking for a documentary on how to, as a pilot, I am not expecting perfection. Okay. I'm going into this movie to watch a comic book story placed in a universe at a point in time in 1984.
Mm-hmm.
I am not looking for how to accurately start up a B-17 bomber.
Okay.
If I want to go see that, there's documentaries I can go see other places.
Point is, we go into these movies with somewhat lowered expectations already.
Mightily lowered.
It gets to a point where when you're treating your audience this stupid, it's borderline insulting. It makes
No,
me angry. Yeah.
this was not borderline insulting.
It's insulting.
This was Main Street insulting.
200 million that they put on the $200 million budget. A movie with a $200 million budget should have some checks and balances in place, some editing. I watched this movie twice, ladies and gentlemen. I watched it day after Christmas with my family. We gathered around. We didn't go out to the theaters because some of us are not feeling well, and we don't want to go out and risk the crap that's out there right now. So we decided to do the HBO Max thing, and we gathered around the biggest TV in the house. First of all, had a bone to pick with HBO Max. Didn't play back on the Roku TV, and I'm hearing that that's a thing on certain television sets. It was a TCL 65-inch QLED Roku TV. Would not play back. I mean, the opening scene, the opening cinematic, the IMAX experience opening there, which is a lot of B-roll footage before they get to, American Ninja Warrior scene there at the beginning. We'll talk about that more later, but it stuttered like crazy. And ultimately, to get it to work, I had to cast my phone to the big TV just to get it to play. Not the ideal way I wanted to watch that movie.
As you lent me your account for a little bit so I could watch it the last couple days. And, you would think that with this big push that HBO Max has made, that they wouldn't have borrowed the Hulu look and actually made it work. Because I tried it on my PC, and all I got was a middle finger and saying, "Go away. We don't want you." And I had to literally pick up I have my tablet right over there. I had to pick it up. I had to plug all the information in, and I actually had to watch it off my tablet.
Yeah, I said, I cast it from my cell phone. So
I paid good money for a high-speed internet connection. I paid good money for a quality, high-resolution screen, and I couldn't use either of those.
Now it says on the HBO Max, it says Dolby Vision 4K. Yeah, there's no way that was 4K. That was playing back in SD. All right, it looks bad. Okay.
Well, I even had points where I had to go out and run some errands with my mother, and so I was watching as I was driving, and it was 5 seconds of play, and then load, and then 5 or 10 more seconds of play. So I finally had to shut it down and come back, and to where I was sitting in one spot. It was like the app sucks, the user experience sucks, and you're paying. If you don't pay the $69 ahead of time, you're paying what, $15.99 a month for this?
Yeah, so $15, something like that. My buddy, he just recently got the same TV we got, the 65-inch QLED Roku TV, TCL Roku TV, and he had the exact same problem, but only with Wonder Woman. None of the other. Now, I haven't tried watching any of the other content on there, but
I actually
he had the exact same problem with just that movie. So you mean to tell me that you're using this to draw in users, and that's the thing that they can't watch? Like, that's the one that stutters the most? That's not a good look.
But Adam, also, I tried 2 other movies that I really wanted to watch. Rampage with The Rock, and there was one other. I can't remember what it is now. I'd have to look it up. But both of them told me to go fuck off. So it was not just Wonder Woman. It is every movie, at least in my experience with it. I mean, I usually give, I had problems with Hulu when I first started using it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I did too, yeah.
I actually had to call up their customer service. You know what? I love Hulu. I would sell them because they really worked with me. The guy took the time to really take care of me. Great customer service. So if Hulu's watching, you get 2 thumbs up from me. You've got my respect, and you've earned my loyalty.
Yeah.
HBO Max, there. I mean, I'm not a subscriber, and I don't know if I will be.
So point is it was not an enjoyable experience to watch this in a playback type setting. I probably would have rather watched it in a theater, but that's not to say that this is worth going out and running and buying a movie ticket and going out and risking yourself out in the pandemic to see this movie. All right, the fact that Warner Brothers thought that people were going to flood the theaters and see this one is pretty damn insulting. But before we get into that, we need to set up some parameters here. So we established that things have to happen in the movie in order for it to make sense. We can't use external explanations. So comic books, cartoons ain't going to fly in this conversation. I don't care if it was in a video game. It has to be in the movie for it to make sense. All right. Second of all, we need to establish what makes an enjoyable movie. Okay, well, we just established that we don't have high expectations going into a comic book movie. We're ready to suspend our disbelief. We want to have fun. We go to movies like this to have fun, okay? But a movie has to have a foundation, all right? It has to have a middle and a beginning and an end. And it has to, above all, at least make sense.
No. It doesn't have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It needs 2 beginnings, maybe some kind of middle, a shit turd for a third. Well, no, wait, for the last half of the movie, where it tries to be a serious Greco-Roman wrestling match of a movie.
You have to have the foundation before you build the house, is what we're getting. Okay, so in order to make the movie, there has to be, even horror movies, okay, have to have established rules. Okay, this particular movie makes the rules up as it goes along, and I've watched it twice, ladies and gentlemen. I watched it once because I wanted to, and the second time because I was trying to dissect what I just saw. Okay, and
it has rules. Why
it should have rules.
Shit show with rules.
Okay, so now that we got that established, in order to have a good movie, you have to have a foundation. Let's get into what we watched. Okay, and we're going to probably trade off a little bit. So we talk about this movie has 2 openings. Okay, and the first one is, and I wrote things down. I meant to write notes, ladies and gentlemen, and my notes turned into a half-assed review. So I'm not going to read everything. I might do a single release later, depending on how the stream goes. But first of all, you have the little girl running with the narration over the background and a lot of really dramatic B-roll footage, okay, that I'm sure would look beautiful in an IMAX theater setting, okay? But it's just a brief moment, and it's a lot of platitudes. You're going to get a lot of that in this movie, okay? And yes, I totally stole that from Red Letter Media because I was looking for the right word to use. I'm like, there's a lot of dramatic speech in the show that thinks that it has something to say but doesn't really have a lot to say. Thank you for making me look up the definition of platitudes. But anyway, you get the American Ninja Warrior at the Boonta Eve pod race in Mos Espa montage. And since Robin Wright was contractually doing her best Frau Blucher impression, her accent somehow seems worse than the last movie, which I really liked. But her accent is getting worse as these movies progress. It's like, it's just haphazardly thrown together. But the whole point...
Obligation be damned. The money was good. I am coming for your souls.
Right. So
kind of what I felt about it. It was great, but it was like, I think she's coming for my soul through this screen.
What was it you called it? The competition at the beginning of the movie. What exactly was that called again? You had a different name for it than I did. I called it American Ninja Warrior because it's exactly that. It's the exact same thing. It's these women competing in some kind of arena type setting. It looks like kind of like a endurance race of some sort. So
Well, if I was going to make a Roman comparison, it would be bread and circuses for the Amazons.
There you go. Okay. So, but of course, Diana's there as a small child. Okay, which, by the way, is older than the movie that was established before it. But I only know that because somebody pointed that out after I watched it. Okay. She's going through all this thing. She does a swan dive off the pier, goes down into the reef there, and then comes back up, jumps on a horse, and she's heading, and then hits her head on a tree branch, falls off. Okay, and she's standing there. The horse takes off without her. She looks down, and there's like a slide conveniently right next to her. Get used to conveniences, okay? Because that is how this movie is laid out. That is the foundation. Things just appear in the movie when the plot needs them to, okay?
MacGuffins and convenience, baling wire, bubblegum, and bullshit.
And don't forget magic. Lots of magic. But anyway, so I watched her slide down the slide, and then she picks up the horse. Now, I don't know about you, Flair. I don't know if I ever told you this story, but when I was in high school once, like my freshman year, I went to the East Moline swim pool, which has a giant water slide. And I went down that sucker all day, and I had a brand new set of swimming trunks. And about halfway through the day, there's some girls that are about my age, and they're giggling at me. And first I thought they were maybe flirting. I don't really know. You know, I wasn't assuming anything. But I realized that I reached back behind me, and the back seat of my shorts were completely gone. Now, that is a slide with water, sir. She goes down this thing with no water or nothing. Like, she just slides right down, and her pants are still intact.
Yeah, she had leather panties on, so, you know. And remember,
she's a little girl. I mean, you know,
she's a demigod.
You're right. Demigod. Magic. But anyway, she gets on the horse, and she gets ahead of the rest of them, okay, because the horse just happens to cut ahead. She gets in the Acropolis, and they're I actually kind of like this scene. I don't hate this scene at all, because it's kind of pretty to watch, and I like all the Themyscira stuff. I like the Amazons, and the way they're portrayed in this movie. I didn't really have a super problem with the scene, other than the scene is kind of a waste of a setup, but she gets the Acropolis, and she
movie based in Themyscira.
Yeah,
you know, the home of the Amazons. I would go buy popcorn and watch that, because you know there is so much to be written about the Amazons. You know, there's a backstory that
at least the way they're set up in this universe, of course. Exactly,
and it would be so cool to see.
But anyway, the point of this scene was she would have won the race, okay, and then Robin Wright goes out there and grabs her and says, "Wait, hold on," pulls her out and says, "You're done. You know, you would not have won the race because you cheated. Because the truth, Flair X, the truth. Remember that later. That's going to be important, okay? It's going to be on the quiz, all right? So, cut to the second opening, and we get a mall sequence. Take away the mall sequence. Be my guest setting this up if you'd like to.
Let me see. How would I put this in the most small
in the silliest, most Richard Donner superhero 80s movie fashion you possibly could. Like, you see another montage of people getting rescued. Mostly women, okay? Mm-hmm. Actually, all women getting rescued.
Well, it's all women doing crimes except for the really, really baddie guys who go into the only the only gem shop that has a black market attached to it. But it's every chance you get, Wonder Woman is not doing anything important. She's stopping petty crimes from ruining a wedding.
Remember, this is a woman that's been in hiding since World War I. Hiding, okay. But yeah, the mall, by the way, I don't know if you noticed it or not, but I'm like, is this the same mall from Commando? Also, the same mall from Chopping Mall. It's the exact same mall, I swear.
The things that caught me was like, okay, I remember the mall where I went to when I was a kid. It didn't have a J.C. Penney in it. It did not have a Lamps Plus in it. If you're going to have a 1980s mall, at least get the stores correct.
I can get past that, but it seems to me like Hollywood movies always want to use the mall that's two stories high, because believe it or not, all malls are not 2 stories high. They don't all have escalators going up to the second floor. A lot of them do, but there's a lot of malls that are single level. I'm just saying. 80s malls always have like these skylights and giant balconies that people can fall off to their death.
The mall in Sacramento. If anybody wants to know where I grew up in Placerville, California. It is the edge of the known universe was Sunrise Boulevard when growing up. We had the Sunrise Mall on Sunrise Avenue, mind you. Convenient that, but that was the edge of the known universe for people in the late 80s, early 90s. It was a single floor mall built in 1981, and it was everything. It was a single floor. Everything you needed was in one place, and it was really funny because it didn't have, it had a bookstore, it had all the good stuff that you needed, and it had Kmart, or not Kmart, it had Sears, and that's where my parents took me shopping every weekend. So in Sacramento, we went there to go shopping, and then we drove an hour home to Placerville.
So anyway, the first thing I notice is there's a group of girls in the looks like the food court, or maybe somewhere in the center court, doing aerobics in the middle of the mall, which seemed kind of weird. I don't recall that ever being a thing, but this is Washington D.C. after all, in the DC universe. So
yeah,
it just guys just standing there drooling over these women doing aerobics. There's going to be a lot of that later. We'll get to more of that in a second. But yeah, these dudes are robbing a jewelry store in the middle of the afternoon on the second level of a mall full of people, and they just happen to know that they've got a secret stash behind their storefront. Okay, and they literally walk into the first of the back room, and you see what that looks like they emptied half of the containers from Raiders of the Lost Ark. I was almost waiting for like the Ark of the Covenant to be sitting there too. Okay, but that's where we get our first glimpse of the
and a very phallic
dildo stone. Okay. It's
dildo stone of lies, damn you!
It's a dick, all right? It's a dick stone. I don't care what you say. The thing looks like, oh, you know what, dude? I cannot wait for the porn parody of this one to come out. I'm just saying, all right? You know it's going to happen, and we will be there to report it. But anyway, so we see the dildo stone. At least we get a glimpse of it. That's going to come back later, unfortunately. But yeah, she foils the bad guys. Kind of a fun scene. It's kind of goofy and silly, and they're doing like the Three Stooges bit with them, and she rescues them, puts a big bow around them, and throws them into a truck out the window.
And at this point, we're talking about magic and contrivances.
Oh.
I have never seen a more forced way of an anti-gun narrative than the dude dropping his gun. Okay, this is 1984. There have not been a whole lot of mall shootings, school shootings in general. Because I graduated high school in 1995, and I remember taking my rifles to school, to high school, and going hunting after school. So whoopsies. And I mean, come on. He's only got.
She almost looks at the camera when she does it like, I hate guns. So.
She did. And then the gal that screamed about the gun in the first place, it's like, are you serious?
These are like the world's worst Keystone criminals too, man. Like the guy drops a pistol. They manage to get out of the store. Nobody gets hurt. They throw the bag to another guy, and then he fumbles it. The bag, drops a gun. Somebody sees the gun. She says, "Oh, gun!" And then, of course, that's where Diana can do her superhero landing, which is the moment that I was waiting for. By the way, I wanted.
It was also when he grabs the little girl,
Oh.
and the other three Keystone criminals are like, "Oh my God, stop! No, stop! No, stop! Oh my God, you can't do that!
What are you doing?" Yeah.
Limp wrist, stop!
I'll drop her. You know, and yeah. So
I
she
mean,
gets.
I'm not, but they were so cliche bad guys. I get the fact that you need a little bit of, non-memorable casting for this, but holy shit, it was like you said, okay, you did this beautiful magical scenes in Amazonia, and then we're in a mall.
Yeah.
Where
that's literally the next scene. We go from Amazonia to the mall. Yeah, Themyscira. All right, I think I'm pronouncing it right. But so
the mall sequence was a Karen's wet dream. No shit.
So she does her classic superhero landing, which is fine. I wanted that moment. I was waiting for it. I was expecting a superhero landing. Thankfully, I at least got one. She uses the tiara as a boomerang. I'm okay with that. It's goofy, but okay. We'll buy the tiara thing. All right.
Yeah.
That's definitely not the worst part of this movie. Okay.
If that's the worst part, son, you are sadly mistaken.
So let me see. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. Like I said, my notes are all over the place here. So
I still like this quote. No true hero is born from lies. Really? How do we explain Batman then?
So here we go. So the very next scene after the big rescue is we go back to Diana's apartment, and it's unfortunately a shrine to Steve Trevor. Okay, Chris Pine. You know, pictures all over the place. She named a ranch after him. She's got his watch laying there. It's a mausoleum. It's a dark scene, and it's a scene that doesn't need to be there because they established this scene again later in the movie, and we'll get to that point. But next thing we go is we have another scene after that where she's sitting in a cafe by herself. Guy walks over. There's a guy carrying a rose. He thinks he's going to walk over and sit down at Diana's table. He doesn't. He just walks past. There's a lot of scenes like that in this movie that just don't need to be there because they don't set anything up. All right, it's like we get it. Audience, we get it. She's celibate. She's still pining for Steve Rogers. It sucks, but that's what you're trying to tell us. We fucking get it, okay? I get it. She eats alone. She's going to go home by herself at night. Looking like that. Okay, whatever, all right? She's Diana Prince. She can take care of herself. I get it, okay?
You mean she doesn't get the fluffer? God damn it. That just ruined this movie for me.
So then the next, we get introduced to Kristen Wiig. Didn't initially have a problem with Kristen Wiig. It is unfortunate that this woman has showed up in a couple of bad movies over the past 5 years. Maybe she needs to fire her agent, you know. But Kristen Wiig, this is the first of many superhero movie tropes, okay? The dumpy hair, glasses, I'm a nerd. Get it? So that means I'm hideous and repulsive, okay?
And if that was hideous, if she landed in my high school, she would have been a geek goddess.
Right? You know,
every geek on the planet would.
Not everybody is this goddamn superficial, okay? Hold on now. Hold on. Wait for this. This is gonna shock many of you, okay? Oh my God! Is this not the most revolting thing you've ever seen in your entire life? Look at that handsome devil. Revolting! Handsome devil. Yeah, this is DC movie logic from like the 1980s, okay? And we're bringing this back now. But sorry, I'm not buying it. Kind of pushing it here, but I'm still not angry watching this movie. I'm still, for the most part, somewhat enjoying myself. Okay.
I'm gonna be ugly for a while.
No, there you go. Okay, so you know, it's like, yeah, now he's a supervillain because he put on the sunglasses. The next thing he needs is a Harley, you know, and a shotgun. But so yeah, it's the classic thing. She even drops the briefcase, and the papers come out, and she's playing that same part that she played in Ghostbusters, where it's like she just rambles and says incoherent nonsense, and we're supposed to laugh like, oh, look how nerdy and awkward she is. You know. So, of course, Wonder Woman is the only one that'll stop by because the guys walk right past her because she's hideous because she has glasses on. But Wonder Woman is the only one that will stop and pick up the papers because, of course, she will. That's the hero of our movie, ladies and gentlemen. And, of course, Kristen Wiig is instantly infatuated with her, says something about her shoes. And her shoes happen to look like cheetahs, okay? Not Kristen Wiig's shoes. Diana's shoes look like cheetahs. And she's like, oh, those are really awesome. Like cat, like, rawr, rawr, rawr. Yeah. This is that Kristen Wiig humor, which a little bit of that goes a long way, okay? Very, very long way. But foreshadowing, ladies and gentlemen. That's called foreshadowing, all right? That'll be on the test later. So, random lady walks into the scene. What's her name? I'm looking for Barbara Minerva, and she's like, "Yeah, you just
their boss.
You just hired me 2 days ago." It's because she doesn't see her. Get it? Because she's wearing glasses, so she's hideous, so nobody can pay any attention to. If you wear glasses in the DC universe, you may as well be fucking invisible. Okay, so she says, "Yeah, that's me." And then I like how she just rambles off like several PhDs, like PhD, PPD, PPO.
No, she's a 3-time PhD with a minor in one other thing.
Cryptozoology.
Yeah, cryptozoology, and it was like, lady, you didn't get out much, did you? Because if you got 3 PhDs back to back, even back to back to back, in the same, they usually only limit you to 1 PhD at a time. And that takes 2 years to get.
I love how these movies always make their characters geniuses. They can never just be like a specialist that's good at what they do. They have to have all of the degrees. And she's relegated to walking through the Smithsonian with a briefcase and nobody notices her.
Well, what also bugged me about that was in the 80s, you really hadn't. Because I've talked with a lot of people at the Smithsonian, women PhDs had not broken into the Smithsonian as much. I mean, to have 2 women in the same department was a giant shocker because there was still that mentality that only men can be historians. You go look at the books from the 80s. And most of the PhD authors are not female. And it's not until the late 90s that you really start getting that influx of female power. So the forced inclusion of women in the 80s, I'm not trying to knock, the wonderful women that did the numbers for NASA and all that stuff, but those were aberrations. They really were, and they were. You want to talk about excellent, points to be made for why women should be included. That movie really does justice to their story.
So, anyways, the lady tells Kristen Wiig the gems from the heist yesterday's heist. The FBI's here, and she's like, "Ooh, wow, the FBI!" Like somebody with that many PhDs really gives 2 shits about the FBI, but whatever. She's like, "Want you to look at one rock in particular." So they show her looking at the Dick Rock, okay, and this is somebody with we've just established not even 2 minutes ago that this woman has 3 PhDs. She says, "I don't know, maybe some kind of good luck charm." So some guy walks into the scene right after she says that, like she doesn't even finish some kind of good luck charm. Guy goes, he holds the dick rock and he goes, I wish for a cup of coffee. And then he walks a little bit around the corner and some guy says, hey, what's her name? Erica, I got Erica a coffee, but she's sick today. Does anybody want it? And he hands it to the guy. He's like, oh, wow, must be my lucky day. And then they start looking at each other like, oh, wow, you know?
MacGuffin number one.
So then we see Diana kind of like thinking, and you know damn well what she's thinking. It's like, I want Steve back, you know? It doesn't have to even tell you. Your audience, your brain has put the pieces together already. It's not super intelligent writing here, okay? So yeah, so the guy takes the coffee, and of course she you know, and then the next thing it is she's asking Diane out. It's like, hey, you want to have dinner and all this, and here's another one of those long scenes that kind of slow the movie down. It's her talking about her love life, and Kristen Wiig talking about how nobody pays any attention to her and people make fun of her behind her back, blah 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 blah. I wish I could be more outgoing like you, blah blah blah. Diana saying she doesn't get out much, even though 2 scenes earlier she was in a mall, foiling a criminal, a really bad, jewel heist. So criminal bullshit. Sorry, I had a little tickle in my throat there.
Criminal done badly.
So they have the dinner, and then she's walking home, and she gives the rest of her dinner to a homeless guy. She happens to know him by name.
He's such a good person.
And, of course, there's some guy making cat calls at her and trying to grab her and solicit her. Every guy in this movie is this right here.
I want a diamond ring, I want some bracelets and everything. Daddy, you better get the best.
Every guy.
Except one.
Except Steve. All right. Well, we'll get to Steve in a minute. But yeah, so nobody would pay any attention to her in the facility where she works. But walking home at night by herself, there are just creepers, Flair, around the corner. Chuds, just random chuds, just waiting to pounce on the women as if...
I want a diamond ring, I want some bracelets and everything. Daddy, you better get the best.
You are all weirdos.
At least that's how I felt about it. But
hiding behind every bush, hiding behind every nook and cranny is the next rapist. But they will get you. Stop,
I didn't get mad yet because, like I said, they did this once. This is probably going to be a payoff to set up, how she's going to become. Because at some point she's going to become Cheetah.
Oh yeah.
We've read the script, or not the script. We know the cast. We've seen the announcement. We've at least watched the trailer.
I'm going to say this. I'm not angry at this point. I'm ambivalent. The movie has not done anything to pull me in. It has done zero. Okay, it's done zero world building. It's done zero to make me have an emotional attachment to any of the characters.
And this is about, 20, 30 minutes in so far?
I think we're like 35, 40 minutes in.
So,
wait, by this time in the original Wonder Woman, I'm having, I am connecting with both Diana Prince. I am connecting with Steve and his mission. And
we haven't even met Steve yet, but anyways, so Wonder Woman saves her. She's not in costume; it's just Diana Prince saves her. All right, shoves the guy over, and she just kind of makes him think she's like, "How'd you do that?" And she's like, "Oh, it's just simple physics, bullshit, just
simple movement of weight."
Simple movement of weight. Thank you. Okay, so she doesn't go home after this attack, which I thought was kind of strange. She goes back to the office to find the Dick Stone and make a wish. And she wishes to be, I want to be as strong and powerful as
outgoing and sassy.
Yeah, sassy as Diana Prince. I want to be like Diana Prince, So, of course, she's introduced to Donald Trump. Maxwell Lord, the oil tycoon.
Oil with oil.
Yeah, played by Pedro Pascal. All right. Yeah, he's kind of a Gordon Gekko type. He has intentions of being really rich and powerful, and really what he does is he has kind of a Ponzi scheme where he gets investors and invests in investors and kind of shuffles the money around. He doesn't really have anything worthy of note other than a really big office with nobody in it. Okay,
and a big building.
He has a big building. He has a big Max Shrek size. I was thinking of Max Shrek from Batman Returns. So,
yeah, okay.
But okay here.
He had a stick up his ass too.
A little bit.
He was so overacting, and the way he was walking, I swear to God.
Yeah, there's some scenery chewing going on here for sure. So he hits on Barbara Minerva, and he talks her out of he basically snatches the stone while he's distracting her. He's like kind of making out with her and telling her everything that she's never heard and all this kind of stuff.
Daddy.
He's Maxwell Mac Daddy Trump. Okay, so but anyways, so then we have the next thing that we see is she wakes up the next day in the Smithsonian. She's sleeping on her notebook, and this is another thing that they do it.
She drooled.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing any drool. I was actually looking for the drool because I'm sick like that. I wanted to see Kristen Wiig drooling on a notebook.
Face. Did you notice that?
Didn't see that. I didn't notice that. But she gets up. She's like, "Oh my God, I slept here," and she wakes up and she pulls a barrette out of her hair. Okay. Pulls her skirt off and then takes the top of her shirt, pulls it down, turns it into a half-ass skirt. She happens to have leggings on underneath of it and high heels, and then she goes outside, almost slips in some water, almost gets tripped by the janitor, but then she does like some kind of little goofy step-up thing on a stool with her heels and everything.
And it showed her heels off. I'm like, okay, is this like... is this a woman thing that y'all get together and y'all compare like, oh look, I have this high heel. This looks like a boot, and it's so cool. Oh wait, this is my boot. Never mind.
So the next,
like.
The guy that almost walked on her face in a couple of scenes earlier when she dropped her briefcase is like, "Hey, how you doing today, Barbara?" Like suddenly he sees her. So I think what the movie's trying to do is establish that her wish got granted, but it just kind of comes out muddled and
the wind blowing through their hair as they touch the phallic symbol.
Well, you know what the porn version's going to do.
So. Oh, yeah. The phallic symbol is going to cream on them as they make their wish.
It's going to come to life and become a character. But anyway, the next scene that we get is the riveting shoe shopping scene, ladies and gentlemen. The riveting shoe shopping scene where Barbara...
I did like her in that dress.
Yes. Kristen Wiig is a pretty woman. Definitely is a pretty lady. That's why I'd say I don't buy... they did this shit in Amazing Spider-Man 2. They did this shit in Batman Forever. They did this shit in Batman Returns. You can't take a sexy actress, muss up their hair a little bit, put them in some dumpy clothes and some glasses. It's not gonna fucking work anymore. Especially nowadays when that's like the style. You know what I mean? So
they did it to Nicole Kidman.
Oh.
When she was supposedly a psychologist. It's like, hello.
Yeah, I'm sure she had 3 PhDs as well. But anyways,
I'm Grumpy Dumpy.
So the riveting shoe shopping scene is one of many scenes in this movie that did not need to be there. It's just there to show off Kristen Wiig looking sexy after she's been dumpy for about approximately 15 minutes of runtime, okay? Now all of a sudden she's hot because she made her wish. And she put on a pair of high heel shoes and just so that a girl can go, "Damn, girl, you look good," And it's like, oh, really? So, yeah, the riveting shoe shopping scene. Because they could have cut that scene out because not too long after that, they have there's a scene where they go to a ball. I don't know what the ball was for or why there was.
It was well, basically it's like an investors meeting,
Okay.
but it's a special time that large contributors get at museums with both the scientists and what they're supporting. So like there would be let's say random examples of what they're researching. Um, uh, like because when you're a PhD, you don't just stop going to school. You're still either teaching or you're writing papers that are peer reviewed and published, and so you're constantly doing research. You're constantly upping your game, so to speak. And to be at the Smithsonian, I think at one point you had to have a minimum of 10 published papers, and you had to be at least a double PhD.
See, Flare X takes better notes than I do. That's just all it comes down to.
Well, I also know some background as to the Smithsonian itself, because the National Archives is a wing of the Smithsonian. So in getting my degree, I got to contact the National Archives for some research assistance, and I got to know a couple of the people that worked there, and I was very lucky and very blessed. Let's just put it that way.
So they go to this ball, and Wonder Woman gets out of the limousine, and of course she looks gorgeous, and of course Barbara Minerva shows up wearing this really sexy dress and high heels. What I'm getting at is you did not need to have the shoe shopping scene. You could have just showed her at the party. Camera could have done a little zoom in, zoom out. You've gotten the same effect, told the same amount of story. This movie is 2.5 hours long and does not need to be this long. Okay,
hey, Adam, they could have even used Maxwell Lord to illustrate the difference, because he could have made even a one sentence comment about, wow, look at the change in Barbara. Mm-hmm. She looks great.
Or had him walk past Diana to look at Barbara. There's so many easier ways that you could have told a very easy piece of storytelling chunk without wasting all the time showing somebody shoe shopping. But anyways, this part of the movie is the only part where you actually hear any 80s music. And I recognized the piece right away. It was Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. This is not one of those movies that's wearing its 80s time setting on its sleeve, which is kind of puzzling as to why this movie even takes place in 1984, if for any other reason, because Studio says kids like 80s things now and Stranger Things, so make it happen there.
The problem I had with it was it wore it on its sleeve, but it also didn't.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the 1980s I remember. It was the 1980s that has been in social culture and turned into cliches.
Yeah.
The knee socks, the wearing of swimsuits in random places like the gym, doing aerobics.
Yeah, the aerobics thing, they really milked the shit out of that too. So
I never saw, even as a kid, in the early 80s, I didn't see aerobics being done in random places. They were done in a gym.
So this ball scene conveniently sets up two parts of what's barely becoming a plot at this point, and that's that Max Lord runs into Barbara Minerva again, gets the stone, and then also This is the first part that really started to bug me about this movie. This is where a random guy walks in, starts talking to Diana after she's already been hit on by pretty much every male coworker she has at the same party. Even some of them having their wives, they're like just walking away to, hey, Diana, hey baby, you know. So, and this guy's like, I wish we had more time together. And she immediately turns around, and he says some things to her that you know, that was said by Steve Trevor in the last movie. And then the camera does this kind of generic turnaround thing, and all of a sudden we see Chris Pine's face. So what's happening, and this is how Steve Trevor was brought back into this universe, he just woke up in some random person's body with a different face. He has a different face, but Diana can only see Chris Pine. So the audience, therefore, sees Chris Pine as well. And that is one of the most generic, bullshit, cheap fucking ways to get an actor back into a movie other than just having him in a flashback sequence.
It's not just that, and I have heard this from multiple people that have seen this movie. It is downright creepy.
It's pretty creepy because they talk and then they make some jokes about a futon. He mispronounces the word futon. It's like, hey, you wanna go back and see my futon? I'm like, well, that's not creepy at all, you know. And they do a sex. They don't show it, but we know the audience knows that they do a sex in this apartment. This apartment belongs to some random dude, and they're just playing with his stuff. Like, well, this dude is an engineer and he seems kind of conceited and blah, 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 you know.
And this is the point where I started to really get offended, because Wonder Woman in the first Wonder Woman movie, she had a very strict sense of who she was, what her mission, what her goals were, and what her morals were.
Well, yeah, dude, this is the same woman that will go out of her way to help somebody pick up her briefcase and her papers, but will follow some random dude back to his house because she thinks that he's Steve Trevor.
And it is at this point where Wonder Woman, all of her morals, all of her goals are abrogated to chase after the ghost of Steve, who is possessing another man's body.
Do you suppose that Patty Jenkins was trying to do the movie Ghost? Like work some of that into this?
You know what? Every other part of this movie is homages to other movies.
It is like a jigsaw puzzle of ideas from other movies taped together on a string of contrivances. But
like I said, bubblegum, baling wire, and bullshit.
It really is, man.
It literally is just a string of baling wire holding together supposedly emotional moments. And you know, I'm supposed to care about the ghost of Steve Trevor in he doesn't even get a name. His name
is just some guy. Yeah, it's some guy.
He is in the credits. His name is Handsome Man. That's it. That is how he is described and how he is named in the credits. Handsome Man.
Handsome Man. So, next scene we see is Max Lord with the rock, okay, and he knows this is a wishing stone, okay, and he wishes to become the stone itself, all right? So, he's already broken the cardinal rule of the monkey's paw, which is usually you can't wish for more wishes. Well, that's literally the first fucking thing he does. He wants to actually be the stone. There's the wind thing happens again. The stone kind of withers away, and then he's just kind of, you know. So he is now the stone.
Every time somebody makes a wish.
Pretty much. Okay.
I swear to God.
So eventually, a movie has to happen because at this point, Flair, we're at the 1 hour mark. Okay, so
And we're literally at the 1 hour mark of explaining it, and we're at the 1 hour mark of the movie.
before any semblance of a plot begins, Wonder Woman and Steve break into.
I still disagree with you. I don't think there's a plot because there's spaghetti still being thrown at the goddamn wall.
So they decide. She decides she needs to.
Going, oh, this one might work. This one might work.
She decides she needs to figure out why her dead boyfriend's come back to life. So
She doesn't care.
she calls Barbara Minerva, says, "Hey, where'd the rock come from?" And then she and Steve literally break into Max's office, who conveniently has a copy of the script laying on his desk, or damning evidence of the stone he's been secretly tracking down for a while.
Bad man here. Bad man here. Bad man here.
I'm going to show it. All right. This is exactly what's left on the desk. Okay. This, by the way, Max Lord is pretty much the dumbest villain in all of DC universe because, like I said, he's leaving damning evidence of this on his desk. And let's see if I have it still. Here we go. Okay, if it'll let me share this or not. Oh no, you won't let me. There we go. Okay, so this is basically what he leaves on the desk. Okay, pretty much. I'm the bad guy. You know, he doesn't even try to hide. You know.
I was waiting for someone for a sign to be hung somewhere that said "bad," and then someone walk up to it and go, "Well, this is a bad sign."
Right.
Like,
I was waiting for them to walk down the street and just have a sign pointing like villain that way, you know, like just
that
Los Angeles villain, you know, pick one. So
I was literally waiting for somebody to have a bad sign show up and them walk up to it and go, ooh, a bad sign. And it's like, oh my God.
yeah, see, if this was a Zucker Brothers movie, that would have worked, you know. But we don't get that kind of entertainment. But yeah, so he's got the blueprints of the Dick Stone and all that kind of stuff, and the etchings and everything laying on his desk, out and open, because everything is Deus Ex Machina in this movie constantly.
Was it about this point that I messaged you and said, who in the hell at Warner Brothers green-lighted this? How could they not cringe through half of this and vomit through the other half?
I don't know.
I
don't know if that's the part where you messaged me or not, but I'm getting to the part where I'm going to lose my shit, okay? Because the next thing they do, and this is where we're probably going to talk for a while, okay? They figure out that he's in... Okay.
Go ahead and talk.
They figure he's in Cairo, so they're going to have to get from DC to Cairo, and the next thing you hear is Steve is saying, "You have a plane that'll go from DC to Cairo without refueling?" And she's like, you know. So he's like, can I see this? You know, and I also left out a real important scene, ladies and gentlemen. There's, while we're waiting for him to get back, they have this long montage of Steve Trevor putting on 80s clothes, and then they take him out into the city and they show him things that he probably would have never seen in his 1918 timeline that he came from, like the subway, people with mohawks, garbage cans, spaceships at the Smithsonian, shit like that, and it goes on forever. It's kind of a cute scene, but it wears out its welcome because it goes on just a little longer than it needs to, okay? So that happened, and then they figured out they got to go break into Max Lord's office and see all the damning evidence, and they realize that they have to get to Cairo, so Steve says, "You have a plane that'll go from DC to Cairo?" And she's like, "Uh-huh." So then she goes to the Smithsonian, Flair, and they go outside, and there's, you know, like we said, there's a runway right next to the Smithsonian in this universe.
Having been to the Smithsonian, number one. Number two, the Air and Space Museum of the Smithsonian is a completely different facility in a completely different spot. And the people from the main branch of the Smithsonian do not have access to the Air and Space Museum. You just can't walk up, wave your card, and go, "I'm getting in."
But in this movie, you can, because she's Diana Prince and she has multi-pass. She can go anywhere she wants. So they walk past actual planes, with propellers on the.
Do what they're wanting to do.
Correct.
But no,
he wants to ride in this one. And what is the name of that plane, Flair?
It's a Tornado. It's a what was it? Panavia Tornado.
Okay,
it is a British fighter bomber that at that point in time is a frontline fighter bomber. I do not understand why it would be at a museum at that moment in time.
Full of fuel, too.
Well, fully fueled, fully maintained, and sitting next to a random runway that just happens to be there.
Now, as a pilot, Flair, this is where you can fill me in, because I've never flown a plane, okay? I don't know shit from Shinola about airplanes. Isn't there usually something called a pre-flight check that you have to do before you can just take off?
Oh, yeah. You absolutely have to walk around the aircraft, look at the tires. You have to look at it, you have to check stuff. You can't just jump in and start flipping switches.
Which is what he does. He's like, I'm going to fly this plane. And I'm like, are we even going to address that the last thing that he flew had to be started like this? Him like pulling down on the propeller and kicking it to get it to start.
That's where my sense of this illusion started to really prop up.
Mine started here, but I haven't gotten to the scene that really got me. We're getting there though. We're almost there. Yeah.
Okay, I can see someone like me being able to retrograde into a biplane. Make that leap. Hey, Keely Chow, good to see you, man. You can retrograde into lower forms of aviation. You cannot step up. When did it crash and explode? I want to know that.
He shot it with a flare gun. Yeah, so it exploded. That is for sure. Yeah.
But okay. Out of all the aircraft that I have knowledge of, I could not jump into a Panavia Tornado and figure it out. There's too many damn switches that are specific to that type of aircraft. I mean, I've flown. I can honestly say that I've sat in the back seat of an F-15, but I can't tell you how to. It does not have a button that says push here to start. It literally, when he did
insert
that,
coin.
I was falling out of my chair laughing.
Insert coin. So, but that's not where it gets stupid. They take off. They're heading down the runway. Police cars are chasing them, and he's like, "I'll take off. The way I fly, they'll never see me ever." And she's like, I forgot to tell you there's this thing called sonars. Radar. I forgot to tell you about this thing.
Radar is air.
I apologize. Radar. See, this shows you how shit little I know about this. Now, if you ask me about the Enterprise, I could probably explain it, but anything else, I don't know.
Silly bastard.
Yeah, me and my Star Trek shit. But anyways, so I forgot to tell you about Radar, and that's the only funny line in the whole movie. He goes, "Well, shit, Diana." I actually laughed when he said that. All right, but they're taking off, okay. And then all of a sudden, Diana. I learned this thing, my father hid Themyscira from existence for many years, and I only tried this once with a coffee cup, and I lost it, and I never found it again.
I found her coffee cup. It says my name on it.
He has it. He found it. So, yeah, she turns the plane invisible, and that's where I went.
Well, it was also the inclusion of her commentary on her dad.
Yeah, Zeus.
Zeus, who can't seem to keep his pants on, but he can come visit a random demigod.
But this is my problem with this movie, though, Flair. It's like these things happen when the plot conveniently needs them to happen. I've never seen so much plot armor in my entire life. Like, she can just literally pull something out of her ass right at the right moment to make the plane disappear. And, of course, nobody gives chase. Nobody alerts. You mentioned a couple. This is where Flair started losing his shit, ladies and gentlemen. He was texting me, and he's like, he starts typing in all caps, and he usually does not lose his composure like that. But
NORAD is the United States is broken into 7 air defense centers that control fighter groups that are specifically designed to keep. And I mean, we had them launch on 9/11 with no missiles because they didn't have they were at a peacetime setting. This is not even a peacetime setting.
this is the Cold War.
This was the height of the Cold War, and you're going to tell me that you cannot call up the squadrons at Langley, in Connecticut, in Maine, in Florida, in Georgia. I can continue on listing where there were squadrons based, in the 80s that are not there anymore, but they were at that point, that could have all been launched and have better radars than what was sitting in DC at that moment in time.
So she's able to turn the plane invisible, also from sight and from radar, because magic. Okay, magic. This is my problem with the movie. It's a lot of
Voodoo magic. Fucking voodoo magic, man.
Look, I've said this before on the show, but I need to emphasize this right here. All right, I don't like a lot of fantasy type movies because in fantasy games, in fantasy books, because in fantasy they have a tendency to use, the hero has a tendency to use magic to get out of bullshit situations, and to me, it's lazy problem solving. You know what I mean? It's she can conveniently start doing this bullshit and make the plane invisible to get off the radar. You have to have established rules, all right? Too often in this movie does she just pull powers out of nowhere to get out of a situation without having it be established. You needed to have a scene earlier in the movie where she's practicing on how to make something disappear so that it doesn't just feel so contrived and Deus Ex Machina'd into this scene. You know what I mean? I get that Patty Jenkins wanted to do an homage to the Invisible Jet, which this is what it was in the TV show, fucking Barbie in a plastic plane. But, I get that you wanted to do that, but it's the way that you did that drives me bonkers, okay?
And then the scene after that where they're flying through random 4th of July fireworks.
Right. They're flying through fireworks, and this plane is not going much faster than a Volkswagen Jetta, okay? Just slowly tooling along so they can enjoy the fireworks.
Yet he took off in Zone 6 Afterburner, going hell-bent for leather, saying, I can get us anywhere, anytime, with the magic pixie dust. As any pilot knows, one should never fly through fireworks because one might ingest just a little bit more than you want and become a permanent fixture or the first person at the scene of your own crash. Yeah, she might have cast a spell on your tingly bit, but she wasn't acting that good.
You got a Volkswagen Jetta. Mine fast, though. I believe you. I do. But the thing is this is a jet, right? And I even asked you because this seemed to... And this is not something that I noticed until Jeff Hicks pointed it out on the World Class Bullshitters. He mentioned that it's going slow. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that was dumb, too. So many reviews that I've watched by other YouTubers... Everybody has found something that I didn't notice on the first passing. If the jet would have been going that fast, Flair... go ahead.
They are well below stall speed. So if they were just tootling along at cruise, even at cruise speed is a couple 100 miles an hour. So they would literally pass by the fireworks so fast you'd never see them. They would look behind them and see the fireworks, not look in front of them. They might see them in front of them, but it's like, zoop. Okay, we just passed the fireworks.
You know, this scene felt like they were going through the tunnel of love on the 4th of July is what it was. They wanted to have, I think what they were trying to do is they were trying to do that scene from Superman where it's like, na, 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 na. But even that is well established because it's like he can fly and he can take her with her and he can do whatever he wants. It's still established. This is in a jet that we don't understand how Steve can fly it, okay? It's going awfully slow for a jet so that they can watch the pretty fireworks go off as they're casually flying by.
Pilots are paid to take off and land. Autopilot is for flying. And that's a running joke in a lot of aviation groups. Any idiot can sit in an airplane and keep it fairly level, if you have even a mediocre of a brain. The flying part is not the hard part. It is getting the aircraft in the air and it is getting it on the ground in one piece. I mean, any fool can. I mean, the terrorists on 9/11 proved that you don't need to really land.
So this is the part of the movie where I start getting angry. Is all the invisible jet shit, but it gets even stupider from here. It gets even stupider. All right, that this was not. There was more hold my beer moments in this than I expected. It got stupider because once they get to Cairo, Flair, they're just in a taxi. All right, they show them on the road in a taxi, and all of a sudden, oh, there goes Maxwell Lord. Like just casually drives by him. How did they know to be on that road at the right time and he would be hitting that way? Was that because magic?
Former Cairo team. Because it's literally stolen from the Transformers movie where they're just randomly driving through places and, oh, look, we found the enemy. Oh, look.
Because magic. Okay, so.
And okay, it was at this point that I started screaming. I'm not even, okay, I am not, Blake, who loves armor. Even I know that in the 80s, Egypt had M113s. They don't look like trucks with bolted on parts and dudes in the back of deuce and a halves with a 50 caliber machine gun who takes up half the cargo load for no apparent reason other than to look cool with a big gun. Another big phallic symbol.
So they're not, yeah, exactly. It's dudes with guns that are dicks. Okay, so they just casually drive by him, and then Gal Gadot buys the taxi. Okay, and then she changes into her uniform in the front seat, so that we've finally, in an hour and 20 minutes into the movie, finally get to see Wonder Woman in costume again. Last time we saw her in costume was the mall scene, and we had to sit through an entire hour and 20 some minutes of movie to get to another costume. This is bullshit. I went to go see Wonder Woman 1984. Instead, I got a badly done homage to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Because I shit you not, she takes that lasso and she lassos the fucking truck that you're talking about, holds on to it, and then slides underneath of it exactly like Indiana Jones did in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Exactly.
Now, just the motivation. Why would the Egyptian military, who is supposedly guarding the oil dude, need technical? They were getting shit tons of United States military equipment and buying Russian equipment at that point in time with our money, mind you. So
I just realized something.
Why would they need technicals?
I just realized something. I looked at the timestamp on our live setting. We're at exactly the same point that the movie would be. An hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah. Well, we've been doing that. That's
we've been EFAPing this fucking movie, all right? So if you guys don't know what EFAP is, just go on YouTube and type in EFAP. You'll see what we're talking about.
Yes, they should have hired Joss Whedon. Anybody else but Patty Jenkins. The original Wonder Woman was a wonderful movie written in a gritty, realistic style that this wadded up, wiped its ass with, and threw it in a garbage can and set it on fire.
There's just so many damn contrivances. I can't. I guess I'm asking too much for my $200 million blockbuster summer movie to just make a lick of sense. This movie feels like, you know what it feels like? It feels like a Michael Bay Transformer script. It really does. It plays out like a Michael Bay
less
movie.
Explosions.
Yeah, it doesn't even have a lot of action or explosions. There's a lot of bad CG. It doesn't even have
good fight scenes.
But I guess the point to them being in Egypt is Max Trump has gone to Egypt to track down a rival oil mogul, and he wants to trick him into giving him his oil. You know what I mean? Because the way this works, it's like I said, even this is haphazardly set up. He can grant you any wish, but he'll take away what is most valuable to you. That's the law of the monkey's paw. It's been done millions of times in Twilight Zones. X-Files dealt with it once. Even the story of Aladdin and the Magic Lamp, it deals with getting your wishes granted, but also resenting what is given to you. The monkey's paw is they're cursed wishes. Like you get a wish, but you're also getting something really bad in return. You're getting something taken away from you. But in this particular universe, he's already made himself into the wishing stone. In fact, at one point during this race that we're talking, this race that's supposed to be a race, at one point she's even running so fast, she looks like a fucking cartoon character, like really bad green screen. You know what I mean? Like Neil Breen level green screen, you know?
It was also pointed out that it's done in slow motion because you can tell that they're not really driving fast. She's not really running fast. She's just pantomiming. And this
is a bad action sequence, a really bad one.
And this is where it fell apart for me when she goes and saves the dummies. Oh, I mean kids. Yes. Not actual living, breathing human beings, or even CG human beings. No.
She's carrying mannequins, dude. Yeah.
You can see the dummies that she's got tucked into. I also really like that there's one the end shot where that little boy has his head stuffed between her tits, and it's like, what little boy would not want to be there? What man would want to be right there?
I was gonna say you never get him off of her, but Bazinga.
Waiter, I need extra time here. No check. Go away.
Yeah, Keely Chow, I can imagine if Michael Bay directed a DCEU movie, it would be Wonder Woman 1984, because this feels like a Michael Bay movie at this point. Just doesn't have quite as many explosions. But so at one point during this whole sequence,
it does not have what's her name that insulted him, and it does not have explosions.
But she gets on the windshield of Max Lord's car. He's in a car, and she says, you have a bad luck stone. You need to give it back. And where's the rocks? He just flat out says it. I am the stone. She still doesn't figure it out right away. Like he confesses his sin. This guy does not even try to hide the bullshit that he's pulling. Like he's basically wearing the flag that says, hey, I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad guy here. But we also see at this point that she's starting to lose her powers.
He's got the sign that says, I'm the final boss. Come fight me. I'm the final boss. You have to fight.
But yeah, so they do the Raiders of the Lost arc scene, and then also, she's the Flash, because she's running as fast as the Flash is, and Max Lord, who's the dumbest villain ever, tells her that he's the stone, and her powers are giving out because I guess what happened, they don't explain it right away, they eventually do. She's starting to lose her powers because she wished for Steve Trevor to come back, but what's most valuable to her is her power. She's losing them, but the movie allows her to have the powers when they need to get to the next scene. There's no, you know what I mean? There's not, like I said, when she drops the dummies, that's like the first time where she's like screwing up, and she's like doing the Spider-Man thing with the lasso, and I'm okay with that. Like I can let that go.
It slips out of her hand. She doesn't have the physical strength to keep a hold of it. It's like, yeah. I was just like.
So yeah, the reason Max Lord was in Egypt was he wanted to tell that oil mogul, grant their wish, and the guy basically says, I want my people to be pure or something silly like that.
He wants that dynasty back.
He wants his dynasty back. So what happens is they build a wall around the city, okay? And he says, I'll grant your wish, but he says, I want all of your oil. And the guy just laughs at him. He says, bruh, I sold it to the Saudis, So he's like, okay, fine, I'll take your security detail. And that's how he got all the tanks, and he got his own army. He took this guy's army away. The trucks that are with the 50 caliber guns on them.
Supposed to be APCs?
Those things, yeah. The fake military looking tanks that they put zero effort into, those things. So
no man with some motivation, they just need to do a porn parody and get it over with.
So Nicolas Cage could have made it better. If Nicolas Cage was the bad guy in this, it might have been something. But he's not. So
Face off.
So the next thing is Max Lord seems to be on a wish granting spree, and this is one of the most horribly set up things. I watched this movie twice, and I still didn't think they did a particularly good job of setting that up. Max Lord is getting sick. For some reason, if he grants a wish, if he doesn't grant a wish, he gets sick. So in order to repair his internals, he has to grant as many wishes as possible. He has to keep finding all these people and granting wishes so that he can repair his body. Does anybody think that this was set up properly? Because I don't. If I hadn't watched other people talking about it, I don't think I would have figured this out. And this is a movie I'm already having a hard time trying to figure out as it is. Okay, it's supposed to be dumbed down for a general audience, and I'm just like, what?
If I had to do a flow chart of the plot progression,
well, that's what we're doing right now. We're doing a flow chart without the actual flow chart.
Well, I'm saying if I had the visual of a flow chart in front of this, it would be kind of a circle with lines going every which way, but
it would be like that thing on A Beautiful Mind when he's got all the yarn and everything kind of attached, going all over the the yarn strings. And
I feel like a conspiracy theorist trying to explain this movie, because it's a conspiracy to find a plot.
There's no semblance of any kind of structure at all. It's just a series of scenes strung together by plot contrivances. But
it is Michigan J. Frog dancing through the scene. Hello, my dog. Hello, my baby. Hello, my ragtime gal. And that makes more sense than the entire movie does. You're waiting for Michigan J Frog to finally just go, I give up too, and here's my hat.
What was that?
That was very strange.
It was very weird.
It was peculiar.
It was kind of amusing.
Yes, it was rather funny.
It was incredibly funny.
I loved it.
Yeah, there it is.
So, so he's on this wish granting spree. Next thing we see is for some reason, Diana and Steve are back at her apartment in DC again. Did I skip something here? I want to say because they do a lot of world jumping instantaneously here.
They go to that. They were in Cairo.
That's right. So she calls. Yeah, after the walls. After the wall's made, she calls Barbara Minerva and says, "Hey, I want you to figure out as much as you can about the stone. Something's up with it. Find me the exact location. All right." And she calls her back on a payphone from Cairo, even though there's two separate time zones. Okay, she says, "Yeah, so I got some information. I got a guy that's got a book that he can read, and he has a shop next to a store next to a record store in DC. I'm going there tomorrow morning." And she just says, "Okay, we'll meet you there tomorrow morning. We'll meet you there."
Magic.
They're in Cairo. Okay.
Magic.
Because magic. Okay. We don't know how they got all the way the fuck back to DC again. I'm sorry, but these little details mean something.
And walk through a door. Here's my theory. She connected the two places, folded time and space, so that all she had to do was walk through a door. That's it. Magic. Hey, it explains it at least as good as they did.
Flair, you've been to the Middle East, okay?
Yes.
Is it not a different, would it not be dark when it's daylight where we're at?
Yeah, they're usually 12 hours ahead of us.
Okay, just checking, all right? Just checking, because she literally shows up the next scene, and they even mock the audience at this point, because Kristen Wiig's like, well, that was fast. And I'm thinking, did you think? This is how insulting this is getting at this point. It's like you're just
not in the magic pixie dust airplane that no one knew about, and came back.
This should say Steve and Wonder Woman continue to DC, but this is an old GIF that I could find. But yeah, so they're just magically there, and they walk in. And this guy has a book, okay, and they open the book up, and
it's Aztec, and she can read it.
This is the other part of the script. It happens to be in this guy's care. He opens it up, and she reads the next plot point, which is this is the monkey's paw, and it was made by a naughty god, okay, it grants your wishes and takes away that which is most valuable to you, and they decide that the only way that they can stop this from happening is they have to destroy the stone.
Naughty places, so he's Bill Cosby.
You can either destroy the stone or you can renounce the wish. Now, in No Monkey's Paw anything has that ever been a thing where you can just renounce your wish. I didn't know that you could just trade your wish in if you didn't like how it played out. So
it really makes Alibaba and the 40 Thieves really not
like
working.
high art. Yeah, like high art. So then this is when they figure out that Max actually is the stone. Even though he flat out fucking told her to her face, I am the stone, they finally put this together that he is the stone. He wished for more wishes. So they have to kill him. Or we don't want to kill him, so let's get everybody to renounce their wish.
Him because we can't kill anybody. When Cheetah was losing her humanity, she couldn't even kill the dude that hit on her. And
this is where the Cheetah starts to show any kind of resistance to Diane at all. It's like, I'm not giving back my wish. I'm not going to give back my mink coat and my high heels and my clothes, basically. I'm not going to give up my clothes just because.
And her torn what were those? Leggings or something like that.
She looked hot. She did. She looked
too sexy for her shirt.
She looked hot. I'll give her that much. Okay, I'll agree with you on that one, Flair. She definitely looked good, but it's a silly premise. All right, this movie is so damn silly. All right, so she disappears. Okay, they go back to.
I made the joke about Michigan J. Frog, but I seriously was waiting for Michigan J. Frog to come dancing through this couple of these scenes, because it's more believable that Michigan J. Frog would come running through the scene than what Patty Jenkins wrote in shit on paper.
This is what I wrote down, Flair. It says, finally admit that it's the monkey's paw created by the god of lies. Like, she actually says that. Because remember, truth is really important in this movie. It grants your wishes, but also takes your most valued possessions. It can only be stopped by destroying the stone itself or giving back their wishes. Interesting. All right?
So finally the plot is explained. It's
almost an hour and a half into the movie, and the plot has finally been set up.
No, it's not set up. It is just there.
Just explained.
It's like, hey, Rocky, look at what I got up my sleeve. It's a fucking plot.
It's a movie plot. Yeah, I got a movie plot here. You want this? What are you gonna do? Forget about it, right? So, yeah. So, oh god, where do I go I have to go back to my. They go back to Wonder Woman's apartment for some reason. I don't remember exactly why.
Oh, because they're foreshadowing the
gold
fight
suit
with with Cheetah.
Yes.
Because Steve has to accidentally stumble upon the super armor of the gods.
Also, this is the part where I said we were going to talk about this later. They reestablished that Steve walks around the apartment and sees that she's basically made this apartment a shrine to Steve Trevor. He feels He feels kind of.
Time that he does it.
This is the second time. Well, this is the first time that he's seen all this, because he hasn't seen her place yet. She saw his place, remember? So he finally sees her place. But the reason for this scene is to establish that, and also to establish that she happens to have found a gold suit that was worn by Asteria. Okay, and this is the part that people probably are going to be going off on me in the comment section. Listen, I'm going off the fucking movie here. This is all I got to work with. I'm not doing any external research on the bullshit of this movie. It's given me more of a headache already. I'm not willing to do this. So if you want to correct me in the comments, that's fine. I'm just going by what's established in the movie. Asteria is the protector. She was their greatest warrior. When the Amazons were enslaved by men, Asteria stayed behind to fight off the men while the Amazons escaped slavery and went to Themyscira. And they lent all of their armor to her to make this suit to where she could fight off basically any army in the entire world. That's the way they explained it. And they explained that by throwing the lasso around Steve Trevor's arm. And he says, wait a minute, what's this? And she's like, sometimes it shows you things too. Okay? So at least they're trying to establish something. This is the first time this power's been introduced, but this is still not the stupidest thing in the movie. So he sees the flashback and he sees Asteria, and the reason there's a wings around it so that she can kind of go like this and repel everybody that's coming against her. Okay? So she can hold off all these people while the Amazons escaped slavery, was why that suit was built. The real reason is we want to establish the suit so that when we wear it later, it doesn't feel like complete Deus Ex Machina, which, unfortunately, it still does. But more on that later. You got that? Okay, everybody caught up with me now? So, Max Trump visits the president. Okay, this is where it gets even sillier, all right? And he asks the president, he says, what do you wish for? This is how he operates. He walks up and he says, what do you wish for? Wish for, yeah, the president who looks a little bit like Ronald Reagan says, well, obviously I wish for more nukes. If we had all the nukes, people would take us seriously, and I'm like, wasn't the United States considered a superpower in the 1980s? I remember it being, unless we were just taught to believe that, I don't know if...
And to be completely honest with you, the Russians had more nukes than we did at that point in time. They had like 2 to 1. It was amazingly. All we were hoping for was MAD, mutually assured destruction. Hey, Richard Greeter.
Thanks, Richard Greeter. I appreciate it. So he says, "I'll grant your wish." He says, "But I want all of your powers. I want all your powers, your presidential powers, and your political influence, and all this kind of blah 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 blah." Like we didn't see this shit coming. Okay. Conveniently hanging in the Oval Office on an easel is a top secret satellite program flare that turns any device into a TV monitor. Even if it's a CRT computer monitor for a fucking IBM computer in 1984.
It invades the stream and touches it. It's the creeper version of hacking. You know, it's not the porn parody.
Jesus, Patty, didn't you ever see War Games? For Christ's sakes.
I think that's where she got this from.
Even they did this better.
It reaches into the system and it grabs it and takes it over. Oogie boogie. Oogie boogie.
Yeah, at one point he says it fiddles with the technology. That was the explanation that they give the audience. Well, it's radical stuff. It fiddles with technology. It's top secret, even though it's just sitting on an easel in the fucking Oval Office where everybody can look at it. I know that there's other rooms where top secret things are revealed. Not the Oval Office, for God's sake, but whatever. All right.
There is a special place within the White House where the president gets briefed by the CIA, the FBI.
It's not the Oval Office. Yeah.
No. That presentation would be nowhere near the Oval Office.
Not even in the 80s.
Yes, especially in the 80s. Not.
I'm sorry, but these things are freaking important, okay? So, yeah, it's supposed to be the representative of the brother eye built by Batman. Okay, well, see, you know this because you're probably a bigger comic book guy than we are. We're just movie people wanting to be entertained, and already freaking lost me, okay? So, but yeah, so I want that. Take me to it. At this point, I thought they were going to drive him to the satellite because this movie is already strange enough as it is, okay? So, meanwhile, hang on, I need to get caught up here. So, Barbara is also at the White House. And they have a little bit of a fight between Barbara Minerva and Wonder Woman. And this was probably one of the better scenes in the movie. I'll say that. I kind of enjoyed their fight a bit because it was action that I could actually see, I could enjoy. Although I have to admit that Barbara Minerva's transition from regular person to supervillain, Anakin Skywalker's transition in Revenge of the Sith was more believable than this. Okay,
I've seen better fight scenes at the local strip club at 2 a.m.
Okay, fair enough. I'm trying to give this movie something. Okay, I'm trying to give it anything at this point. They fight. I won't elaborate on that because you probably already seen this. But she winds up on the same Air Force One helicopter that Max Lord is on.
Marine 2.
What's that?
It would be Marine. It's Marine 2 until the president actually gets on it. So it is technically Marine 2.
Because he's not really the president. Okay, yeah. So he's on Marine. It's the same helicopter that you've seen time and time again with the presidential seal on the side of it and everything. She says, "Hey, you mind if I ride?" It's after they fight, and she's basically telling Diana, "Don't get in my way. You obviously didn't renounce your wish. Why should I renounce mine?" She gets her ass kicked by Barbara and Minerva because they pretty much both have the same powers. So
no.
You have good Diana and bad Diana at this point.
Diana has no powers at this point.
Unless she needs them to. Because sometimes she does and sometimes she doesn't. There's no consistency with that whole setup.
And the Secret Service agents are the worst shots on the planet. Because all they can do is graze her in the shoulder.
Yeah.
So, that was my running joke with you in my messages to you. Hey, look, they shot again. They missed.
They missed.
From 5 feet.
They should probably try out for Imperial Stormtroopers. But anyways,
Yeah, they really should.
now this is where things get really muddled because you see Max Lord, Max Trump, Max Lord, whatever. All right, getting really sick. His face is looking bad. His veins are kind of popping out, and he's like, "It's okay. All I gotta do is grant enough wishes, and I'll fix everything. I'll be right as rain if I just get to the satellite and grant all the wishes."
So
Now she tells him, and I didn't catch this the first time. I caught this the second time. He asked her, she said, "Did you already make a wish?" And she's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, that's okay. I'm feeling generous." She says to him, "I don't want to be like Diana anymore. I don't want to be like anybody. I want to be the apex predator." So basically, she gets a second wish granted. Did she just exchange her wish for another one, or how does this fucking work? I don't understand. I don't get it. Somebody explain to me how you can just take your wish and exchange it for a different fucking wish.
Well, how do you get? How do you start stealing? It's never. It's so random what is taken at the beginning.
Voodoo magic. Fucking voodoo magic, man.
Yeah, it really is. It's just toss your hands up and go. At this point, if you're still seeking the plot,
you have to just, because I started to check out by this point. This is where mentally I was checked out because I gave up. I figured, you know what, movie? You gave up on me trying to make a lick of sense. I have given up on you trying to make sense of this nonsense that's being thrown at me.
It also got so dark and so muddy that you could hardly see the fight go on because it's like, they look.
Well, wait. Before we get to that, I don't want to jump too far ahead because I'm going to elaborate on that a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's establish that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, okay? Because Max gets to the studio and he gets in front of the presidential seal. How convenient! And he's standing up there looking like Donald Trump, and he's like, "I'll grant your wishes. Anything you want, I'll grant your wishes." So the world is going to hell around them, okay?
Adam, it's also the cliched, super huge antenna that would stick out like a sore thumb from like Uranus.
Yeah.
Oh my God, how did you miss that, you dumbass idiot?
The top secret facility, which you could probably see from anywhere in the United States with a decent pair of binoculars. It's so big.
This is the point where I was waiting for Venus.
But wait. More stupid stuff happens, okay? So Diana and Chris Pine are running around DC. Everything's going to hell. People are saying, "I wish for a farm. I didn't know they were going to just put it right here in the middle of Times Square." Just dumb shit like that. They're flashed in different people that are wishing for absurd things. Some people want to have nuclear powers, blah, blah, blah. We have to get to the important point where...
Nuclear bombs.
Yeah, Steve Trevor tells her, like, "Look, the world needs you. I had a good life, but I can't." They say goodbye again, okay? He's basically trying to convince Diana to renounce your wish, okay? I know you wanted me back and everything, but renounce your wish so that you can get your powers back and go kick ass, And so we have this really sappy moment where they're doing the goodbye again. And as you mentioned before, at this point, I feel nothing. It does not feel earned, okay? We did this before. Yeah.
It's supposed to be this emotionally transcendent moment of...
Oh, yeah. The music lays it on thick, man. They're ladling that gravy on thick.
The ultimate sacrifice. And I'm like, will you just shut up and die already?
Exactly. Like she runs away at one point, and you can still hear him. It's like, "Love you, always be here for you, no matter what." Like he's like literally standing around the corner. "I'm already gone, I'm very badly burned."
I was waiting for the guy in Pirates of the Caribbean with the grenades to run up, hand him one, light the fuse, run the fuck away, and him to just blow up. And I was like,
it was so cheesy. So she lassos a jet flare, all right?
yeah.
Okay, all right. Lassos a jet.
That's after she lassos a cloud.
The cloud was after the jet. She goes up there first,
Okay.
and there's more platitudes where you can hear stuff that he's saying, and she's hearing it. She runs really fast, lassos a jet up into the air after doing her next Flash impression. Lassos the jet. She's up in the air.
She can fly.
And then she lassos a fucking lightning bolt in the clouds, and then she starts floating, and then he starts talking about what it's like to fly, and now Wonder Woman is flying.
I'm Supergirl.
Look, I don't care if this is set up in the comic books or not. The fact is Wonder Woman 1984 is a prequel. It's a prequel to Batman v Superman. It's a prequel to the Justice League. 2 movies that she was already in before she had her own origin story, which was also a prequel. At no point did she ever allude to her ever having the power of flight, other than flying an invisible jet. Even the Diana Prince in the TV show had an invisible jet.
Okay, they alluded to it kind of in the end of the first Wonder Woman movie, where she jumps off of buildings and kind of strikes that jump pose and jumps from building to building.
It still seems weird to me. It was very out of nowhere. It was very out of nowhere. It felt awkward and weird, and I was like, and then I even said it out loud. I was like, so now she can just fly. I mean, she doesn't just fly a flare. She's got the Superman pose and everything while she's flying.
Oh, yeah. Well, she does. Yeah, she does the whole Superman pose before Superman was found, and then killed, and then brought back, and then Batman turns into whatever.
So she's flying, and then while she's in the cloud, she can also hear everybody on Earth doing their wishes and everything. So she kind of hears it, and then she goes down. The next time we see Diana, she shows up at the radar dish, the giant secret radar dish that you could see anywhere from anywhere because it's huge. That's what she said. But she shows up in the Astoria armor, okay? Where did she have time to fly back to her apartment, grab that armor, and then just show up with it? There must have been a cutscene. I'm sorry, these things are important. She's in a hurry to try to get these things done, but she has time to go back and get the armor, and then go immediately right back to where she was before, and get to the island in some undisclosed location that we don't know about. I question the logistics of this movie at all, because I don't know where they are half the time, okay? She shows up on the island, she EMPs all the fucking guards and the gunneries.
No. It's a 40 millimeter grenade, and it turns into an EMP burst.
Well, she does that thing. That when she goes like that, she goes, pfft, and then she takes out all the gunnery.
And would that not have? Okay, let me ask this question, because it really did hit me. If it was an EMP burst, why didn't it take out the lights that are all over the place, and all the electricity, and the broadcast? Because, well, EMP does that.
I think I know the answer to that question.
There we go. Magic.
Because magic. All right, so I because I even said, I'm like, where did she get the fucking outfit? I couldn't keep my mouth shut. It's a good thing I didn't see this in the theater, because I would have been standing up saying, wait a minute, stop the projector. What is going on? So that's fine. She has the armor on. She takes out the gunneries, and then, of course, we finally see Cheetah.
Let's not forget the Sea Whiz. They have full-blown naval weapons.
With tracer fire.
The R2-D2s with the the guns. They're called Sea Whiz, close-in weapon systems. I'm like, okay, they're Gatling guns. They're really, really big Gatling guns, and oh my god, they're cool. What? But wait, why can't they shoot it? Why can't you see the scene of her at least taking it one hit?
I don't know. But this is where the cheetah fight comes in, and this is
well, you doing that with Linda Carter just makes me laugh. It looks like she's giving head.
okay. So, but yeah, Cheetah finally shows up, and it's a cat lady, straight out of Cats. Okay, it is what you saw in the trailer, and this fight scene sucked. All right, it reminded me of every fight scene from every bad Michael Bay Transformers movie there is. It's really fast. It's cranked up too high. Everybody's moving around too fast. The music is swelling, and there's a lot of jump cuts, and it's all in the dark, so you can't see what's going on. I hated this fight scene, Flair. I hated it.
And they're swinging from
power lines,
Transformers, literally swinging from Transformers.
Yep.
And so both Cheetah is dealing with the electricity, and Wonder Woman is dealing with the electricity, but yet to end the fight, she shocks her with electricity. That she's already stood up to. I was like, wait.
I was confused because Cheetah, on the second passing, I noticed at some point the fight, it looks like a bad Cirque du Soleil, okay? Like a really bad one. Cheetah swinging from live power lines with the sparks hanging on the end of it, unaffected by this whatsoever, okay? And then at some point, they are underwater, okay, and...
Sorry, zap.
She's beating the shit out. She's like, renounce your wish. And she's like, then I have no choice. I'm sorry. And she grabs one of the power lines and shoves it in the water. Diana's fine because Wonder Woman, because magic. Cheetah starts kind of floating down. So it's like, is she dead? No, she's not dead. Diana grabs Cheetah, pushes her up, and takes her over to the side of the ledge and lays her down. Okay? And that's the last we see of Cheetah anyway. She goes inside, and Max Lord is standing in front of the camera, the light fucking television TV thing giving out wishes right and left, and there's wind everywhere in this fucking room, and Diane is in the gold outfit, and she's trying to stop him and lasso him, and the lasso, for some reason, after being able to do all kinds of ridiculous things in this movie, can't seem to cut through wind. Because
it can grab a 50 caliber machine gun bullet flying towards Steve. Well, handsome guy with Steve on board. It can do that, but it can't cut through wind.
Yeah.
It can grab lightning. It can grab clouds. It can probably give Diana orgasms just by looking at her.
We get that. We get more platitudes, and then ultimately she's trying to get the truth. This is where the whole setup of the whole movie is the truth is beautiful. The truth will set you free. Now, I just want to go on record as saying I get that you think that you had some kind of a message to deliver to people, but the message was delivered very badly. And it's not a message that people kind of already know this, okay? Basic young kids kind of already know this. If they don't, then you think less of your audience than I do. I guess I have more faith in people than the producers of this movie did, okay? Because it seems very juvenile, okay? But she, to get over, because I want to get through this fucking thing. I'm sick of talking about this movie so much. She lassos the guy's leg, and she says, I'm talking to the world. I'm not talking to you. And it's like the big shocking reveal is she's lassoed his leg, and she's talking through the TV using the lasso of truth, trying to convince everybody that they need to renounce their wishes because it's not right. Okay? It's wrong. It's wrong to wish for things. So, sorry if you wished for your grandma that died of cancer. She's got to die. Sorry, fuck you. If you wish to live a year longer, sorry, you need to die. If you wish that one of your loved ones didn't have COVID, tough shit. You know, they have to die because the truth. Eventually, she convinces Max Trump to go after his son, he's been treating like shit through this entire movie. He's like, go save your son.
Well, he randomly shows back up.
I renounce my wish. Bye. It's literally how it pretty much goes. In the next scene, Flair, they're on the helicopter and they just land and he just comes running out of the bushes. Alistair! Alistair! Alistair!
Yeah, it was
Oh,
suspension of belief again.
So yeah, reset button on everything because of this. She convinced the entire world to renounce their wishes because of her gaudy speech at the end. Okay, which probably nobody understood.
It wasn't even a good speech. It wasn't. It was so heavy-handed. It was so contrived. I'm sorry. I guess I'm just a cynic. I would have laughed my ass off at if I saw that. I would have changed the channel looking for a better speech to laugh at. Because it's like, seriously?
Apparently, yeah, we never see. The only thing is that it was kind of touching is he tells his son, he's like, hey, you know what? I am actually
He has that breakthrough moment where
he has a breakthrough moment where he finally tells his son the truth. He says, I'm kind of a loser and I'm not so great of a guy. And then his son says, no, you're the best. You're my dad. It's touching. I get it. Okay. I fucking get it. I do.
But it is so.
It wasn't earned. Yeah.
If I didn't give a shit about Steve, he renounced his writing handsome guy. I could care less at this point if Max Lord rides a pogo stick through the Kremlin saying, I'm an asshole, I'm an asshole, I'm an asshole, I'm an asshole at every bounce. I at this point, I wanted the movie to be over. I wanted something to blow up, and I wanted someone's clothes to come off. I wanted one of the three.
Something.
And I got zero.
Yeah, it was. It's a mess. It's just the fact that it's. I get that it wanted to be lighter in tone, but everything about it just felt rushed, and it just feels so silly, like too silly for its own good. You know, these villains are not good. Very well established in this movie. I mean, this is pretty much it right here. This is Max Lord. You know,
Well, you should do away with the Max part and put parentheses and say insert name here.
Yeah, insert Trump figurehead right here because it's. I didn't even notice the Trump thing at first. My sister was the one that brought that up. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess you're kind of right. And then once she pointed out, I couldn't unsee it. You know, but that's still, Flair, not the end of this movie.
No,
the end of this movie is literally a Hallmark Christmas scene. Like straight out of a Hallmark Channel Christmas movie is where it ends. Like it ends on, you can tell this is a reshoot because it's so jarring. She runs into Handsome Man. She runs into Handsome Man, okay, and she doesn't say who she is, and he doesn't know who she is because
she just started a random conversation.
She just starts up a random conversation. She kind of has this look on her face like, yeah, I tapped that. I did. I tapped it, you know. She doesn't say anything, you know, because, you know, we don't want to use the R word here willy-nilly, you know, but it has been brought up by other YouTubers. I'm just mentioning that had these roles been reversed, people would have lost their shit. So it's what we call double standards. It's also what we call misandry. You can't say this movie is feminist by any sense of the meme because they've gone way out of their way to say that she can't live without Steve Trevor, but once she finally shakes off the shackles of love and needing a man and all that, she can literally fly. So it's a very weak message even with that. I would not necessarily call the movie woke. Maybe you do, because there is definitely some elements of that kind of stuff in the movie, you know, especially with you know all the guys acting like this.
How did I put it, Adam? I said it's the most unwoke woke movie I've ever seen.
And that's a good analogy. But yeah,
And it's WWINO.
every guy in this movie is this, except for Steve.
I want a diamond ring, I want some bracelets and everything. Daddy, you better get the best.
But there's only one post credit stinger, and that's that we see Linda Carter walking through that same Hallmark center there, and she stops a beam from falling down on somebody and puts it back up. Lady walks up and says, "Oh, thank you." And from behind, it looks like it might be Gal Gadot, but when she turns around, she's like, "What's your name?" She's like, "Oh, Asteria." She's like, that's an interesting name. She's like, it's the name of my people. You know, it's a name from my people. She says, I've been doing this for a very long time, and she winks at the camera.
In manliness and motivation, go check out Shadiversity's video as it relates to Wonder Woman and the sexual misconduct of Wonder Woman. Let's see. He franchise history TV. He wasn't Trump-like. I kind of thought of him as Jerry Falwell from the big televangelist.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Is more of a Gordon Gekko, and I thought his hairstyle reminded me of Simon Le Bon from Duran Duran. But this is a good question here that I would actually like to address. I wonder how many cooks were in the kitchen in this one. I get film being a collaborative process, but damn, this was way all over the place. Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to. We're going to do our scores. We're going to do our scores real quick, and then we're gonna go back to that question. So hold that thought. Flair, out of 5, I do a cheese curd rating scale, 1 out of 5. What would you give this movie, sir?
You know, I actually have not thought about this, and I'm really trying to be generous when I give it 1.
Wow. So 1. This is Limburger, and he's saying generous on that one.
Stinks.
Yeah, it's so 1 out of 5 cheese curd for Flair. Me, I'm gonna give it 2. Okay, and the only reason I'm gonna say that is I'm a guy that watches bad movies for fun. This was not really. It kind of is one of those types of movies. Like, you want to watch it just to say, because this was my initial feeling once I finished watching it, and why I even did this review tonight is this as bad as I thought it was? I had to immediately get online and go look at other people's reviews for it to see if they watched the same movie that I did. Most everybody kind of has the same feeling. I haven't heard anybody say, this is the greatest movie I've seen all year. Even the people that do like this movie give it like about an average score, like 6, 7 out of 10, something like that. 2 out of 5 because it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. I sat through Black Christmas 2019. This is not that bad, okay? But it is bad because I went into this with mild expectations, and I was severely disappointed. I wanted to like this movie. I will say that... Yeah, we'll get into a couple of things that we liked, if anything, and any at all. But I do want to go back to that question there. Now that we got our scores out of the way, that question. Hang on, let me pull it back up again. Was
there was 2 people credited with writing?
How many cooks were in the kitchen on this one? This does feel like there was a lot of ideas that were jotted down on paper that just they had no time to string all these ideas together, because all of the plot contrivances, everything about every aspect of this movie feels like a very rushed project.
Well, and what's really funny is there were disastrous test screenings.
I could see why. It's bad.
And this is post that. And
this is the fixed. Yeah, this is the fixed one.
And if this is the fixed version, I want the Zack Snyder cut.
Well, that's the thing. Are we going to have a different cut of every movie that flops now? Is this going to be an easy fix? Are we going to get a do-over for every bad movie? I don't want that. I don't want to. I'm not willing to. Now, I will say this. All right, having just given it a 2 out of 5. I am willing to watch another Wonder Woman movie. It has to be better than this, though. Okay? If the next one's as bad as this one, I'm done with that character. I'm done. Because I still like the character. I still like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I think the actors and actresses did the best that they could with what they were given. The problem is the script is the true villain of this movie. The villains are kind of weak if you think about it. And nobody really dies. At no point did I ever feel like there were any great stakes in this movie. I didn't feel like anybody was in any genuine danger at all. I just didn't feel it this time. It was not... Nothing was earned. Nothing was set up. Nothing was paid off. Even a horror movie, some of the bad horror movies that you and I have watched, you have to have rules that are established. Yeah. Even something like Nightmare on Elm Street, all the things that he can do to you in your sleep, he can still only do them to you in your sleep. This movie just pulls stuff out of nowhere whenever the plot needs to move forward, and you can feel it so much during.
I want to give credit to Critical Drinker. That, you know, he made a really, really great point that, you know, Gal Gadot is not an actress, and she's not one of. I would not put her in an A role outside of Wonder Woman in certain, unless certain criteria were met, because the first Wonder Woman movie was written to her strengths. Mm-hmm. She did awesome as Wonder Woman in that movie because Zack Snyder knew how to write to what Gal Gadot could do. And
well, I'm not willing to dismiss Gal Gadot either, because if you remember back in the 80s, you had people like Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger who really were not veteran actors at all, but they had a great deal of charisma, and they were able to move past a couple of bad roles and get to some better.
And I hope she can.
I do. I hope she doesn't get ruined by this. Gal Gadot, in my opinion, deserved a better movie than this. She probably thought she was doing something better, and this is what got out. And the only thing is I'm wondering what Kristen Wiig and Gal Gadot are thinking right now. Like, my God, what did I do? Where did this go wrong?
Watch it. This is Patty Jenkins' approved version because she threatened Warner Brothers with walking from the editing studio if she didn't get
the editing studio. The editing studio has to be a room full of kindergartners with paste and glue and glitter, just taping things together and throwing it up against the wall. The editing in this movie is bad. I mean, really bad.
Manliness and motivation. She has charisma as a person, but she does not have it as a star.
The reason I brought up Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger is there was a point where Arnold Schwarzenegger realized he wasn't an actor, and he would pick roles that would play to his strengths, you know, and find things like a perfect example would be True Lies, Predator. Those movies elevated his career, you know.
If you look at Scarlett Johansson, who has a long and storied career as an actress, who is very good looking, Gal Gadot is not Scarlett Johansson, and if you tried to put them in the same movie, ScarJo would run rings around her if the script was not right. And she could have in this movie because the script was not right.
I want to address a couple of questions here. Richard Greeter said earlier, says, I may just skip it altogether. Richard, I would not see this in a movie theater. If you have HBO Max, watch it. What's the worst can happen? But to actually get in your car and go pay money and sit in a movie theater to watch this, no, would not recommend at all.
I have to make it a solid admission here. I was going to skip it until Adam and I discussed wanting to do this. So, and then he asked me to go ahead and watch it. Otherwise,
that's the thing is, and I didn't mention this earlier. We watched this, me and my family, and we talked about this movie nonstop for a week. And every day we would come up with new things like, hey, wait a minute, why did that happen? Or why would this happen here? Who wrote this? What the hell happened? How did this go so wrong? And we even had this question like, are we just getting old? Are just movies just being made stupider as time goes on? Because it seemed like scripts are making less and less sense, especially in genre movies. It feels like the people that write genre movies feel like they don't have to answer to anybody. They're like, well, this is a comic book movie, so I can just do whatever I want. I just make the people get here. She just magically makes the jet disappear, and then there you go, boom, invisible jet, done, let's go on lunch. I feel like that's how this stuff is getting made, and I feel like we deserve better than this.
We do, but it's literally throwing shit-covered spaghetti against a wall and expecting the audience to eat it up with a spoon. It makes me sick, because this makes assumptions, because a lot of people hung their hat on, oh, this is going to be a great movie, this is going to be something that's worth it to watch. We're all sitting here with our COVID, post-COVID or current COVID. I don't know what the hell's going on with COVID, but we're all sitting here going, and this was supposed to save.
Oh, yeah. They held this for a long time. They were not going to release this. I lost my train of thought already. It feels like they had a lot. Okay, this was probably greenlit when they just had their Suicide Squad flopped, Batman vs Superman flopped, Justice League really flopped. Okay, because even those other two movies still made enough money to call themselves even. Then they suddenly had a hit with Wonder Woman, fast track this, and then while that was being made, or while that movie was a success, the hot things in the zeitgeist were Stranger Things and 80s and It, and all that stuff took place in the 80s, so they had to make that take place in the 80s too, because that's the current zeitgeist right now. That's what's the in thing, is the whole 80s deal, because it feels so tacked on. There was no reason to have this movie even be in the 80s. They didn't even really do anything with it, other than we had a montage of Steve Trevor trying on tacky 80s cliche outfits and a shoe shopping scene.
And that's really the only thing I can say about it being 1980s, is that it is truly just all the bad cliches. And I mean, sadly, okay, if you were going to, toss in a couple of 80s hair metal bands, for God's sakes, if you're going to do the whole 80s montage, fucking pull out a Motley Crue song or something. Or
there's some fun things they could have done. Instead, we got shoe shopping scenes and clothing montages. But I do want to end this on an up note. So I'll go first, because maybe you don't have anything, and I don't expect you to have anything if you don't. But let's talk about things that we actually liked about the movie. I liked the trailer. Okay, I liked that costume that she wore, even though it was kind of a contrivance, but maybe it's in the comic book, maybe it isn't. I didn't mind that costume. It was kind of cool. All right, it looked cool. The music in this movie was fantastic. It was better music than the movie deserved.
Yeah.
The music a lot of times made the movie seem more important than it really was. It was kind of like, it kind of contradicted what we were seeing. I'm like, oh, here comes the really swelling mood music here. I'm supposed to care about this scene. But the music was actually pretty good. Like, I was kind of impressed by it.
You can't unwatch it if you're sick of the 80s. Just wait till they get to the 90s.
I have a feeling, you can't watch this, that this might be the end of the 80s thing, because this was made a few years ago when that was the big deal, and I think this might have been the end of it at this point. And another thing too, I have another theory that this might be the last blockbuster movie model that we see for a while. It says here, I paid $60 in tickets to see Wolf Takers in cinema, and that was not a waste of money in the slightest. Wonder Woman 1984 would have been a waste in theaters. Too often scripts are written in a crutch. They're written in a writer's room, and it's just people literally throwing a wiffle ball against the board, against a pile of words, and they're like making Mad Libs. I think actual scripts are put together using Mad Lib principles. There's no other way to describe how bafflingly silly this script actually is. It's really bad.
They took push pins, put randomly generated thoughts on Post-it notes on a wall, then stood 40 feet away and threw darts after drinking Jello shots for 12 hours.
I don't really have any animosity towards Patty Jenkins. She made Near Dark, which is a movie that I love. That's a movie that its thunder got stolen by another movie that came out literally at the same time called Lost Boys. They're similar movies, but just look up Near Dark and watch it. It's awesome. It's got the entire cast of aliens. It's basically the same concept. It's about nomadic vampires that are kind of cool and hip and rock and roll, and it's a very good movie. And she also did Monster. You know, that's where Charlize Theron won the Academy Award for playing the world's first female serial killer that was executed. So, she's talented, and plus she did the first Wonder Woman movie, which we thought was really good. It was better than we thought it would be. Maybe it's because we went into this with expectations, but 2.5 hours this movie did not need to be.
You can't unwatch it. Why would anyone want to milk the 90s? Because people like me grew up in the 90s. Because people like me, we had our childhood in the 90s. And there are I graduated high school in 1995. Okay. So some of the best years of my life were the early 90s. And, I would say that, you had grunge, because look, you want to think about it. What was Captain Maxwell trying to trade on? It was the early 90s.
They already did that. Yeah.
And they did it. I mean, if that's the start of the trend for the blaxploitation of the 90s, I would bet you that because look, a lot of people, I'm 44. People who are probably in the lower echelons of the studios are, especially in the green light shit, are my age range. They're getting to positions of power, and they're going, we love the 80s. We were little kids in the 80s. Oh, and we love the 90s because it was Power Rangers, and it was Animaniacs, and it was all this different stuff that is still very popular.
Well, there's another thing that you're forgetting too, and I know because you're close to my age that you'll remember this. Every particular generation that we've lived in, there's always been an attachment to a previous generation or a previous couple of decades. When we went through the 80s and everybody was obsessed with the 50s. So we had a lot of these 80s, 50s movies like Night of the Creeps and Christine and well, I don't know if I think Christine took place in the 70s, but you know what I mean? They're like Peggy Sue Got Married, Back to the Future. Everybody was on a 50s nostalgia trip, okay? Yeah. And then in the 90s, everybody was on a 70s nostalgia trip. We even had a TV show called That 70s Show. We had Dazed and Confused. We were going through that. So this stuff is not unusual.
We wouldn't have Matthew McConaughey if not for that movie.
So the next logical answer is people are going to finally get sick of talking about the 80s, and they're going to want to talk about the 90s. It's inevitable. Yeah.
Friend, Seinfeld. I mean,
hey, you know what? I don't mind talking about the 90s. There's a lot of parts of the 90s that I thought were pretty bad, but then there's a lot of stuff in the 90s that was good. A lot of the music was great. We finally got rid of hair metal. I mean, there are good parts of.
We still have thrash metal.
Yeah, well, that's because that was already good. So
Yeah.
the hair metal, pop metal finally disappeared when grunge came through. But I don't want to get off on that tangent anymore.
But then we got a fat Axl Rose.
I want to wrap this up though. But so yeah, good things. Like I said, I liked that Themyscira scene at the beginning, even though it was a very drawn out, unnecessary scene. It was still fun. It was beautiful to look at.
Honestly,
I liked the music and I liked the costumes. But other than that,
if they made a movie
yeah,
about Themyscira, dude, with those visuals, that would be an awesome movie if it was done right.
There you go. So, what were some things that you liked about this movie, Flair, if there were anything at all?
You know, I honestly liked the whole Coliseum battle royale.
Me too. Yeah.
Battle of skills.
American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah, I liked the little girl battling in with the adults because she, you know, it kind of sets her up as older than her age. You know, that her age is, people look at her a certain way because of her age. And I see, that's where I think I
think what they were trying to set up was because she's a demigod, she's been able to skip a lot of things that most normal people don't go through. And she has to be held back and told, you have to experience this like everybody else does. Like how to not, you know, take the fast road and to cheat to get your way to success, you know.
But I think
you don't want to cheat because then you're a cheetah.
Well,
see what I did there? Yeah.
In one sense, I liked that they were looking at truth. There could have been a great looking at the truth from a different perspective, because in that initial scene, you know, in that long scene, the truth was she didn't really cheat. She used initiative to get back to her horse.
That's the way I looked at it, but apparently they didn't think that she did that right. So,
and that's like, okay, you're thinking out of the box. So now thinking outside the box, all you can do is do ropes, you know, and follow these. I really liked. I thought the Amazon armor, the Amazon, showing that there was a lot of Amazons, not just the few that we saw in the last movie. I really liked that aspect of it. You'll laugh at me, but I love the fact that they included the Smithsonian. I think the Smithsonian gets very little love in our society because it is a repository of Americana.
Well, that's the other thing too. Is if you're going to set Diana Prince up because she's a curator at a museum, because obviously she's lived through history, that's fine. But don't literally turn her into Indiana Jones. Just don't do that. It's tacky. You know what I mean? It's tasteless, is what it is.
I thought some of the homages to other movies were hilarious. So, you know, I mean, one or two were done really decently. They were great ideas, and how they enacted them was quite mind blowing, and I enjoyed them immensely. Let's see, stuff I really liked. Honestly, and for it all, the scene with the fireworks was a great scene. I just, you know, yes, I have my technical issues with it, but I thought it was a great moment.
It was supposed to be romantic. I get it. Yeah, it was. There was some nice music going in the background. It was the two of them back together, enjoying a moment. But it's just,
I think it was
was set like the rest of this movie. It's set on a foundation of silliness that takes you out of it. You know,
it's on it. Like I said, it's on it. I will say it till the day I die. This movie is on a tripod built out of baling wire, bubblegum, and bullshit.
Yep, it is.
But there are certain moments, because when she uses the armor to fly in, that was an awesome moment And that was what I was expecting the entire movie to be.
And we got about like not even 5 minutes of that. I didn't count out the exact length of that fight, but I was angry that it was one of those cliche in the dark, can't see what's going on, people flopping around way too fast. I hate those kind of fights. And this is post Marvel and post John Wick. I want to see better fight choreography than that shit. Okay, it was really the action sequences in this movie are not good. They're not great. Okay,
especially with the introduction of John Wick. Audiences are expecting better action than this movie gave, and that is a sad commentary upon Wonder Woman, because it was very, very. When Linda Carter was Wonder Woman, it was very progressive. It was very, it was very nuanced. Yeah, it was cheesy, but it knew it was cheesy. It was
you could always tell what was going on. It didn't feel like a Michael Bay movie. Okay, yeah. This felt like a Michael Bay production of a Wonder Woman stuff. Yeah, Manly Miss Shade. I hate the shaky cam stuff. Yeah, there's that high cranked one face and then another face and then another face and jerky shit going on. I hate that shit. You can't tell what's going on. They're fighting because the music tells you they are, but all you see is just stuff flopping around the screen. It doesn't make any sense. We deserved better than that, and we deserved more of that than what we got from this movie. There's a lot of nothing going on, and this movie thinks that it has a very heavy-handed message. Maybe it was meant to persuade people during the election, or I don't really know, but it if it had a heavy-handed message to give, it got muddled in a sea of bullshit.
Well, and I think it was very heavy-handed in the wrong ways.
Yeah, it worked against it. It worked against its own detriment. It really did.
Because you look, okay, I looked at the parts that were supposed to be feminist, and they were so contrived and so forced in there that you just cringe. It's like, I want this. Look, if you're going to be feminist, I really don't give a shit. At least I know it's coming. But this is kind of like, you had butter, and then you went and churned more and said, well, if that's good, let's give you all of it.
Yeah, and DC does that a lot too. Like they get one hit, and then they instead of trying to do what DC does best is when they try to think outside of the box and do something different than what became before it. Like with Joker, or like with the first Wonder Woman movie, or The Dark Knight. When they try to do something different, but what they do that's wrong is whenever they try to recreate something that they already did previously, that's when it always goes to crap. You know what I mean? It's like they did BVS, they learned nothing from it. They did Suicide Squad, they learned nothing from it. They did Birds of Prey, they learned nothing from that. Even Birds of Prey had some better action sequences than Wonder Woman 1984. And that's unfortunate, because this had a way bigger budget than that. So we've seen movies with half this budget. The only thing good that I hope comes out of this is I hope that movie studios start scaling back the budgets and putting more effort into storytelling and good action sequences, and not worrying so much on the CG and the budgets and the marketing and all this kind of crap.
Here's what I would love to see is go back to the 80s, where they had to tell a good story, because the practical effects.
Yeah, definitely go back to the practical effects.
Limited them. I think this was CG done wrong.
Oh yeah, that's bad.
And
especially Cheetah, dude. Ugh.
Because I mean,
I watched Cats. I watched Cats. I enjoyed that because it was so bad. But I was not expecting that kind of an experience from a Wonder Woman movie.
Well, when you can plainly see that the kids are not even CG'd back in, that they're two dummies.
That means you held that scene a little too long and you didn't even bother to fix it in post,
Yeah, so. It's like, I just question where Warner, how did they think that the reshoots fixed any of the problems that were created in the first edit?
They clearly did not have a direction for this, and it shows. But anyways, we're at 2.5 hours. I'm going to wrap this up. Flair, I want to thank you for being here. Let's go through I want to thank everybody that showed up in the chat. We had a really booming chat here. Franchise History TV, Keely Chow, Manliness and Motivation,
Richard Greeter. You can unwatch it.
You can unwatch it. I want to
thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here. We had a killer discussion here. Surprisingly, nobody came in here and made fun of us, and I think it's because most people just kind of generally agree. We wanted a better movie. We got very disappointed by this. I don't know if DC is ever going to learn from their mistakes, because they seem to repeat these same mistakes over and over. Most of the stuff that were wrong with the movie are cliche superhero sequel mistakes: having too many villains, having bad CG, having sloppy plots, goofy villains that become villains that become villains because they have a bad day at the office. That kind of shit. We deserved better than this.
I'll give this to the critical drinker as well. By the end of the movie, I didn't really hate Max Lord. I had sympathy for the man. You're not supposed to have sympathy for your villains. I felt sympathy for Cheetah, because she wanted to be a person that was given a damn about. It's hard to take these characters seriously as villains when you care about them more than you do your own protagonist.
And I do applaud the fact that they tried to make villains that were somewhat flawed, but I think they were a little too flawed for their own good. You know what I mean? Yeah. They were not compelling enough. But anyway, I don't want to talk about this movie anymore. However, that being said, if you do want me to do a single release, like I said, I wrote a really long review about this movie. I can do a single release video on this as well if you guys want me to. Leave a message in the comments, not the chat, in the comments. If I can get more than one person say, yes, please do a video, I will do one. Otherwise, I don't want to talk about this movie anymore. I don't want to watch it. I'm done with it. I have one really important announcement, though. Over the holidays, our channel got past 600 subscriptions, which is 100 over what my end of the year goal was. I wanted to get to 500 by the end of 2020, and I managed to get well over 600. So I'm very happy that the channel is doing better. We're doing really well reviewing episodes of The Expanse. I am definitely going to start reviewing more TV shows, because those are really fun to do. I learned a lot of that from working with Loitering in Wonderland Studios, which is on a temporary hiatus until Phoenix West heals from his surgery. Those will be coming back soon. But this weekend, we're going to celebrate the fact that we got to 600. We're going to be watching Avenging Force. I know we've reviewed that on the channel, but we never actually watched it in a watch party type setting. So that will be this weekend, and there's also going to be a special giveaway. I'm not going to tell you what the giveaway is, but it's going to be something cool, okay? Because I haven't exactly nailed it down. I got like 2 or 3 ideas of things I want to give away, so you'll want to be there this weekend at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday for special giveaways. Make sure you're there to celebrate that 600 mark with us. Thank you so much, and I'm going to head up out of here because I'm starting to glue myself to this chair here. We're already officially here longer than the length of the Wonder Woman movie. So, but you guys have yourselves a fantastic week, and we're going to get up out of here. Be safe. Don't kill anybody. Definitely remember the truth will set you free. Blah, 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 blah.
Platitude. Insert platitude here.
Insert platitudes here. You guys have a good one. Peace out. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it somewhat entertaining. Please remember to depress that like button and subscribe to my channel for more content. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you'll be the first to know when new content is published. Please visit raidersofthelostflicks.com for more hilarious entertainment and links to all of our social media platforms. Also, consider supporting us on Patreon. As little as $1 a month supports our worldwide digs for more Lost Flicks. Thank you, and have a groovy day.